Chapter 31 Draw a Pie for Her. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After warning the two call girls, Wang Mingyang looked at the floor with disdain, shook his head, stood up, and waved to Su Yu and Mu Ningxue who had been lying on the door frame watching the show. Opening the door of another secondary bedroom, Wang Mingyang grabbed his backpack and walked in with the two girls. He didn't need to turn on the lights, but opened the curtains, and the moonlight shone directly in. I don't know if Su Yu's fire was too fierce just now, but the mutant mosquitoes outside disappeared. The three of them found a place to rest in the moonlight. Have a good rest for a while, and we will go out to find a car when it gets light. Wang Mingyang pulled a chair and sat down against the wall next to the French window, took out a book from his backpack and opened it. Oh, I know, Brother Mingyang. Su Yu stretched, put his sword on the bedside table, and fell down to bury himself in the big bed. After a while, a slight breathing sound sounded. Su Yu had experienced a long battle and exhausted his energy all at once, and he was already exhausted. As soon as she relaxed, she fell asleep quickly. Mu Ningxue went to the sofa and sat down, looking at Su Yu who was snoring on the bed, and then looked at Wang Mingyang who was reading a book in the moonlight by the floor-to-ceiling window. For a moment, she was still a proud girl a day ago, but how could she become like this a day later, even needing the protection of the man in front of her? To survive, the horizontal sword in her hand was still stained with green mosquito blood, and there was a pungent fishy smell. Mu Ningxue resisted the nausea, walked to the bathroom of the second bedroom, turned on the faucet to clean the sharp horizontal sword. At this time, the power was not cut off, and the bright light illuminated the bathroom. Mu Ningxue looked at herself in the mirror, with confusion and fear of the unknown in her eyes, and a hint of unwillingness. She patted her cheeks with cold water to wash off her makeup, but Mu Ningxue, who was born beautiful, was still a rare beauty even without the enhancement of cosmetics. Taking a deep breath, Mu Ningxue walked out of the bathroom holding the cleaned horizontal sword upside down, walked straight to Wang Mingyang, sat cross-legged on the floor, raised her head and stared at Wang Mingyang blankly. What's wrong? Haven't you seen a handsome guy like me? Wang Mingyang closed the book, tilted his head and smiled faintly. I have seen many handsome guys, but I have never seen one as narcissistic as you. Mu Ningxue curled her lips and sneered coldly. Confidence comes from strength. I have the strength to be confident. Wang Mingyang didn't care, crossed his legs, supported his chin on his thighs, and talked nonsense seriously. Well, you do have the strength. Mu Ningxue had to admit that Wang Mingyang's appearance was indeed very handsome, belonging to the standard of a sunny big boy, but his temperament did not match it at all. Sometimes he was very cold, and sometimes he was a bit unruly. I always felt that there was a bit of evil, which made him somewhat unrelated to the sunny temperament. Raising his eyebrows proudly, Wang Mingyang suddenly extended an index finger and lifted Mu Ningxue's chin in a very frivolous way. Tell me, what do you want to know? I don't believe that the arrogant Miss Mu will so easily accept her fate and be humble. A trace of panic flashed across Mu Ningxue's eyes, and a feeling of being completely seen through surged into her heart, but she quickly calmed down and looked at Wang Mingyang seriously. I want to know when I can awaken my superpowers. Why do you think I can answer this question? A feeling. You don't seem to be surprised by other people's superpowers. Wang Mingyang casually retracted his fingers, rubbing his thumb on his index finger, as if feeling Mu Ningxue's delicate and smooth skin. Seeing Wang Mingyang's little action, Mu Ningxue secretly spit, but her face couldn't help but burn a blush. Nothing to be surprised about. I can awaken my superpowers, so you can awaken my superpowers. Why can't others? Since they can all awaken their superpowers, there is nothing to be surprised about. Wang Mingyang's tone was calm, but Mu Ningxue didn't know why. She always felt that the man in front of her was not quite true. Raising his eyebrows slightly, Wang Mingyang looked at Mu Ningxue's still puzzled eyes and laughed in his heart. I can't tell her that he was used to all kinds of magical superpowers in his last life. As for Zhao Ding's D-level power enhancement superpower that I met today, the blonde man Jerry should be a C-level rapid movement superpower, which is not up to the standard at all. Of course, speaking of this, Wang Mingyang's own 5 F-level superpowers in his last life were even more unworthy, but, in this life, he now has 2 superpowers, S-level, space cutting and A-level, metal control. It is reasonable to look down on C-level and D-level superpowers, it's just a little Versailles. Can superpowers really be awakened by everyone? Mu Ningxue yearned for it. She had an urgent feeling that she wanted to master the power as soon as possible, perhaps so that she could control her own destiny in this apocalypse. In the past, she didn't need to consider these issues at all. As the heir of the Mu group, Mu Ningxue was born with unparalleled wealth and could control her own destiny without any effort. But now, the apocalypse has come to Blue Star, all the rules and order have been broken, and the previous money status has disappeared. Zhao Ding, as a bodyguard, can do whatever he wants to her. If Wang Mingyang hadn't intervened in time, I'm afraid that she, who was once high and mighty, would now only become Zhao Ding's plaything. This feeling of being controlled by others makes Mu Ningxue, who has received elite education since she was a child, completely unable to accept it from the bottom of her heart. She desperately wants to change this situation. At present, the only way may be to grasp this man's hands. Theoretically, everyone can do it, but in reality, I guess it's difficult for many people to do it. Why? Take Su Yu as an example. She awakened her powers when she faced a zombie alone. There was great terror between life and death. This kind of pressure stimulated her potential, and she only awakened her powers. Wang Mingyang explained lightly, from this point of view, facing fear and fighting hard should be a major way to awaken supernatural powers. And when most people face zombies or mutated creatures, the first thing they think of is to escape. Rather than picking up weapons and fighting, the probability of awakening supernatural powers is greatly reduced. Zhao Ding seems to have awakened his ability while fighting zombies. Mu Ningxue murmured in a low voice, recalling the punch that Zhao Ding used to kill Wu Li. That's right. I guess that Jerry was also climbing over the mountains when the mountains suddenly turned into zombies. After being frightened, he awakened his superpower. Wang Mingyang nodded and said with determination. When Mu Ningxue heard this, her big beautiful eyes rolled up. She couldn't survive this over the mountains and ridges. What about you? How did you awaken your superpower? Mu Ningxue's heart suddenly moved and she blurted out this question. I have an extraordinary talent, and I woke up after just a few casual battles. Wang Mingyang choked and made up nonsense. Unexpectedly, Mu Ningxue seemed to believe it and nodded, with deep envy in her eyes, and she blinked at Wang Mingyang with her big eyes. Seeing this cute expression suddenly appeared on the sexy and charming Mu Ningxue's face, Wang Mingyang felt teasing in his heart, and couldn't help but want to draw a cake for her, and continued. I believe you will be able to awaken your powers, sooner or later. After a few more battles, you will probably be able to. But my technique is too poor, I always miss the vital points. It doesn't matter. If you try it a few more times, you will know how to insert the knife, so that it will be more effective. Really? It seems I need to work harder. Work hard, Seonian. If you do it a few more times, you will always reach the peak. Then you will know how good it is. Why do I always feel like you are fooling me? Impossible, I will never be found out when I lie to others. Mu Ningxue. Chapter 32. The fragments have increased in value. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mu Ningxue snorted coldly, rolled her eyes and sat back on the sofa. Wang Mingyang touched his nose, smiled awkwardly to himself, and continued to flip through the book in his hand. The next night was not peaceful. Wang Mingyang looked through the French window and saw many vague figures running around on the street from afar. Under the occasional fire in the city, the huge mutant rats, mutant cats and dogs rushed past. The night became a paradise for mutant creatures and zombies. There were even many battles between them. It seemed that each other's bodies had some kind of promoting effect on each other. With the experience of the previous life, Wang Mingyang knew very well that when the end of the world came, some energy of the blue planet would revive, and it would become normal for creatures to devour each other and grow. In a few days, the flesh and blood of those mutant creatures would also be a great tonic for humans. Eating the flesh and blood of mutant creatures with the same attributes could also slowly enhance the power of superpowers. 7 days after the end of the world, some zombies began to condense various crystal cores in their brains. Absorbing them could enhance physical fitness or awaken strange superpowers. Similarly, mutants or zombies can also enhance their physique or have a chance to gain superpowers by eating human flesh and blood. Heaven and earth are not kind, and treat all things as straw dogs. Nature is fair to all creatures. Perhaps, the only unfair thing in all this is Wang Mingyang, who has been reborn, detected that the host is familiar with basics of metallurgy, extracting A-level superpower metal control fragments +2, metal control fragments, 5, reward reading value, 200 points. Host current reading value, 2,741 points. The familiar system prompt sounded again, and Wang Mingyang suddenly found that the fragments extracted by the system actually increased this time, which is a good sign. System, why is there one more superpower fragment extracted this time? The host has a certain understanding of the knowledge contained in the book through reading books many times, so there will be extra rewards. Not every time you read a book, you will only extract one superpower fragment. Does it mean that if I understand the knowledge of a certain book deeply enough, it is possible to extract a complete superpower? Yes, but the higher the level of the ability, the more difficult it is to extract it completely. Wang Mingyang nodded secretly. Just like the superpowers in 300 children's songs, the level is too low. In addition, he didn't know how many times he read this book in his previous life, and he already had an extremely deep understanding, so the superpowers he extracted were complete. In this way, the more advanced the superpowers are, the more you want to extract them completely. You can't limit yourself to one book. After all, it is impossible for a book to fully explain the relevant knowledge. With this experience, Wang Mingyang has also thought more about the future reading direction, but for now, it is still necessary to extract enough fragments of metal control as soon as possible. 1/3 has been completed, and turning to other books at this moment is indeed a bit unreliable. Relying on the strong physique after the second reinforcement, Wang Mingyang continued to read basics of metal science, while restoring the energy in his body. Every once in a while, the system prompt sound will sound in his mind. Sometimes, even if you haven't finished reading a book, you can successfully extract the supernatural fragments after further understanding a certain knowledge point, which makes Wang Mingyang's confidence increase. Until the sky outside the window gradually brightened, Wang Mingyang checked the system records and found that his metal control supernatural fragments had accumulated to 11 pieces, and the reading value had accumulated to 3,341 points. Ningxue has been watching Wang Mingyang, flipping through books in the moonlight, but she still doesn't understand why Wang Mingyang can still be so devoted to reading in the end of the world. Until she fell asleep, Ningxue didn't figure this out. Wang Mingyang stood up and stretched, put away the book and went to the bathroom to wash up, and then returned to the second bedroom. On the soft big bed, Suyu curled up, with a white and slender thigh sandwiched between the cool quilt, and her hair was loose, sleeping soundly. Ningxue leaned on the sofa, still holding the horizontal sword tightly in her hand. Her eyebrows were furrowed, and she was sleeping soundly with her seductive red lips half open. Standing in front of the French window and lighting a cigarette, Wang Mingyang looked at the streets full of corpses downstairs and searched for vehicles that might be used. Since he promised Suyu to go home, Wang Mingyang would not go back on his word. With his physical fitness close to the first level at the moment and 2 superpowers in his body, it is not difficult to make a breakthrough. After all, Suyu himself has the A-level Dark Flame superpower. As long as he survives, he will definitely become an extremely powerful helper in the future. Moreover, during this day of getting along, Wang Mingyang can also feel Suyu's attachment and trust in him. Such a person can easily become a loyal partner. Looking downstairs, Wang Mingyang found an explosion-proof car parked in a corner of the pedestrian street, and there seemed to be 2 armed police bodies around it. After thinking for a while, Wang Mingyang felt that this car seemed to be useful. Looking at the time, it was already 6 o'clock in the morning. Wang Mingyang walked to the big bed and pushed Suyu's shoulder. Suyu, wake up. Third sound. Mom, let me sleep a little longer. Suyu frowned in her deep sleep, uttered a sweet moan, mumbled some unclear words, and buried her head deeply in the pillow. Wang Mingyang shook his head helplessly, looking at Suyu's perky butt under her short skirt. Rubbing his hands, he slapped her. Pa. The plump buttock sank as the palm sank, and then bounced up again, rippling a circle of waves. Wang Mingyang felt the amazing touch from his palm, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Ah, Suyu felt a sharp pain in her buttocks while she was sleeping, and her palm reflexively covered her buttocks, and her body with her back to Wang Mingyang suddenly turned over. Suyu looked at Wang Mingyang standing by the bed with a confused face, and it took a long time for her to react, and her face suddenly flushed. Go wash up quickly, we will leave soon. Wang Mingyang hurriedly urged Suyu without waiting for her to speak, and blocked Suyu's mouth at the right time. Oh. I'll go now. Suyu's eyes suddenly lit up when he heard this, and he immediately jumped up from the bed and ran to the bathroom barefoot. Seeing Suyu running away, the smile on Wang Mingyang's mouth slowly faded. In his previous life, Wang Mingyang had been working part-time for 4 years in college, and he had no intention of falling in love at all. Working hard to complete his studies occupied his entire college life. Moreover, he was poor and unpopular in the social atmosphere where money was paramount, and girls did not like him at all. After the end of the world, he, who had multiple superpowers, unexpectedly met his former college goddess Wang Ruoqing. In order to get the secret of his multiple superpowers at the same time, Wang Ruoqing fully played her green tea nature and played him around. After learning that the superpowers came from the book 300 Children's Songs, after many experiments, he was unable to obtain multiple superpowers, and finally joined forces with Zhao Yimin and Han Jun to frame him to death. Unexpectedly, after Rebirth, he found that there was actually a little fish around him, who seemed to be paying attention to him all the time. At this time, Ningxue was awakened by the movement of the two. Hearing Wang Mingyang's words, he frowned slightly, but still stood up and stretched his waist. The plump body pulled out a seductive curve. Ningxue gathered her hair, tied a ponytail, and walked to the bathroom. The two girls quickly washed up in the bathroom. It was impossible to do maintenance and makeup at this time. Soon, they cleaned up and walked out. Suyu even took out a set of sportswear from the room and changed out of the white t-shirt and pleated skirt stained with a lot of blood. After simply packing up the backpack and weapons, Wang Mingyang opened the door and walked into the living room first. After being warned, the two call girls really stayed in the living room honestly, leaning against the corner and still sleeping. Chapter 33, Supernatural Powers Lead the Way. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Wang Mingyang kicked the big wave's foot, and the woman woke up on the spot. After rolling and crawling, the short-haired girl was also awakened. Looking at Wang Mingyang in front of them, the two women felt their scalps tingling. Ah! Don't kill me! Don't kill me! The two women's voices were a bit harsh, and they shrank in the corner with their heads in their hands and trembled. Wang Mingyang raised his chin impatiently at the two people and shouted, I won't kill you, but hurry up and move the debris at the door. The big wave and the short-haired girl looked at each other, and rolled and crawled to the door, working hard to move the furniture blocking the door. Soon the door was cleared, and the two of them stood aside with their heads lowered. After we leave, you can do whatever you want. My personal suggestion is that it is best to stay on the 6th floor, where there is food. Wang Mingyang stretched out his hand to open the door and reminded casually, although he looked down on these two people, but at this time, the other party was not a vicious person, so he just pointed his finger casually. As for whether these two girls would develop into a happy lesbian family here, that was not something Wang Mingyang could guess. I understand, I understand. The girl with big waves and short hair nodded repeatedly with a flattering smile on their faces. Wang Mingyang didn't bother to pay attention and walked out directly. The corridor was in a mess, but there was no fresh blood. There were only a few shrunken corpses lying on the ground. Apparently, the mutant mosquitoes last night seemed to have sucked the blood and brains of these corpses dry. Suyu and Ningxue followed closely behind, and the three of them quickly walked towards the elevator. Soon they arrived at the elevator. Suyu reached out to press the elevator, but Wang Mingyang shook his head. He vaguely remembered that in the last life, it seemed to be the morning of the second day of the apocalypse, and the whole city began to lose power on a large scale. If you take the elevator at this time, it will be quite embarrassing if you accidentally get stuck in the air when the power goes out. Let's take the stairs. If there's a power outage, it'll be a big delay. Wang Mingyang took the lead and walked towards the fire escape. He wasn't afraid of a power outage, he had the ability to control metal, so the elevator wouldn't fall directly to the ground, but this would indeed cause some delays. To be on the safe side, it would be smoother to take the stairs. The 18th floor was not very high. The three of them spent less than 10 minutes and only encountered a few shrunken zombie corpses. The mutant mosquitoes last night cleared a lot of zombies, but the mutant mosquitoes also left many corpses. Zombies and mutant creatures prey on each other to gain energy and strengthen themselves. After successfully reaching the lobby on the first floor, Wang Mingyang walked to the door with the two women and pointed to the corner of the pedestrian street in the distance, where there was a black explosion-proof car covered with iron nets. I saw two armed police corpses next to the vehicle over there upstairs. If we're lucky, there should be a key. What if there's no key? Is there a backup plan? Ningxue observed the situation and asked in a low voice. Plan A is, after the attack of the mutant mosquitoes last night, there are not many zombies on the street now, the three of us will kill them, find the key and drive away. What about Plan B? Plan B is, if we can't find the key, we will walk and see. If there is a car, we will drive. If there is no car, we will walk. Ningxue, Su Yu. This plan is really well prepared, you are really good. The two women gave Wang Mingyang a thumbs up speechlessly, and Wang Mingyang smiled awkwardly. In his previous life, he was not a gifted leader, and he had no experience in things like combat plans. However, with his current strength, as long as he is not besieged by a large number of zombies, there will be basically no danger. By the way, Brother Mingyang, you can turn metal, why are you still looking for the key? Suyu asked puzzledly. Ningxue shook her head and explained, many cars are no longer traditional mechanical keys, but smart remote control keys. If the explosion-proof car is started in the traditional way, it's fine. If not, you can only find the corresponding key. Smart remote control keys have electronic components inside, and you can't drive without a key. The era in the movies where two strings can be pulled out and the fire can be started has long passed. Moreover, this kind of key is not something that Wang Mingyang's metal control can handle. Okay, let's take it one step at a time. There will always be a way out when the car reaches the mountain. Wang Mingyang waved his hand, pulled out the ink shadow, and stuffed the scabbard into the backpack. It can only be like this. Fortunately, there are not many zombies on the street. Suyu sighed helplessly. She didn't expect that Wang Mingyang, who had always been so confident, was actually a reckless word. The silver beads in Wang Mingyang's pocket flew into the air, turned into steel needles, and took the lead in pushing open the revolving door and walked out. Ningxue looked at this magical scene with great envy in her eyes. Although Suyu was also envious, she had her own superpowers, so she was not like Ningxue, who was almost drooling. The steel needles shot out, and the zombies along the way fell to the ground one after another. Wang Mingyang's unreasonable metal control ability made the zombies within a 10-meter range unable to get close to him. The three of them quickly rushed to the side of the explosion-proof car. Who of you can drive? Check to see if there are any keys in the car. Wang Mingyang said anxiously while resisting the zombies that were gradually surrounding him. Ningxue stepped forward quickly and stretched out her hand to open the car door. Ah! Ningxue screamed, and Wang Mingyang immediately turned his head and saw an armed police zombie struggling desperately on the seat, thanks to the strong seatbelt that tied it up, but this sudden scene scared Ningxue and she stepped back repeatedly. Suyu, however, held up a knife and stabbed it into the zombie's mouth without hesitation, piercing through the back of its head. He waited until the zombie stopped moving, then stepped forward to unfasten the seatbelt, pulled the corpse out and threw it aside. You come, I can't drive. Suyu raised his chin proudly to Ningxue, and drew his knife to stand aside to assist Wang Mingyang. Ningxue bit her lip and hurried forward to check. Fortunately, their luck seemed good, and the key was still inserted in the keyhole. He tried to start the explosion-proof car and found that it could still start. It can be driven. Get in the car quickly. Ningxue shouted outside the car. Suyu, you get in the car first. Wang Mingyang ordered without looking back, and Suyu understood and quickly opened the back door and jumped in. Wang Mingyang increased the output, controlling dozens of steel needles, like a rainstorm of pear blossoms, clearing most of the zombies that gathered, and turned around to jump into the passenger seat. Drive to Xiqing District. Take Minhang Road and get on the elevated road. Wang Mingyang quickly pointed out the direction. Ningxue was quite familiar with this area, then he started the explosion-proof car and stepped on the accelerator. The explosion-proof car made a roar and rushed out, knocking away several zombies. The black explosion-proof car turned a corner and a wide street came into view. But now there are many cars blocking this street. Wang Mingyang looked ahead and raised his right hand quickly, and the metal control ability was fully activated. The cars 10 meters in front of the explosion-proof car seemed to be repelled by a huge force and spontaneously moved to the sides. Under Wang Mingyang's full control, the explosion-proof car was like an icebreaker, opening a smooth path in the congested lane. With the metal control ability, it is much more convenient to take the elevated road than to travel in the city. Ningxue pursed her lips, controlled the explosion-proof vehicle to drive through a lane of more than 1 kilometer, turned the steering wheel sharply at the intersection, and rushed straight up a slope. The road condition after the slope was better, although there were also many abandoned vehicles on the road, but at least it was not as densely packed as the pedestrian street. Wang Mingyang breathed a sigh of relief, leaned back on the seat somewhat dejectedly, and waved his hands from both sides from time to time, using his supernatural power to clear the road. The large amount of energy consumed in a short period of time made his face pale, and fine beads of sweat slid down his cheeks. Chapter 34 Ningxue's Expectations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With Wang Mingyang's supernatural power clearing the way, the explosion-proof vehicle soon passed through the civil aviation road, drove onto the Third Ring Expressway, and headed straight for Xiqing District. Suyu's rental house is near the university town, far from the city. Wang Mingyang always takes the subway to travel, so the sense of distance is not too strong, but this time when he drove there, Wang Mingyang found that it was really far away. Along the way, Wang Mingyang controlled his supernatural power to drive away the congested vehicles in front, but after more than 10 minutes, Wang Mingyang felt that he was almost drained. This is still the case when the consumption of metal control supernatural power itself is not very large. In the end, Wang Mingyang had no choice but to control the surrounding metal to form a sharp conical giant blade at the front of the explosion-proof vehicle, so that Ningxue could control and avoid the abandoned vehicles in front as much as possible. When it is really impossible to avoid it, just use the giant blade on the front of the car to hit it. The sharp giant blade will directly cut the vehicle in front under the blessing of the speed. Fortunately, there are not many vehicles on the Third Ring Road at ordinary times, and there is less congestion. After 2 enhancements, Wang Mingyang's physical fitness has basically reached the first level, but after such a long period of full exertion, the mental power consumption is far greater than the physical fatigue. Seeing that the road ahead is relatively smooth, Wang Mingyang began to close his eyes and rest, using meditation to accelerate the recovery of mental power and energy in the body. Releasing superpowers is not just about having superpowers. Generally speaking, superpower energy needs to be combined with mental power control. Different superpowers have different requirements for mental power. The elemental system, spiritual system and mysterious system are similar to the magician in the game, and have high requirements for mental power. But relatively speaking, when awakening superpowers, the increase in mental power will also be relatively large. The strengthening system and the transformation system are similar to warriors, and the requirements for mental power are much lower. It is enough to be able to control their own changes. When awakening superpowers, it is more about increasing physical fitness, and the growth of mental power is average. Mental power and internal energy are both indispensable. The release of superpowers takes mental power as the core and guides energy to materialize. Levels 1 to 5 belong to low-level awakeners, who can only release their abilities with their own energy. The amount of energy and the size of their mental power limit the awakener's performance. Level 6 and above high-level awakeners can use their own mental power and energy as a guide to attract external energy amplification capabilities. The energy and mental power in the body sometimes cannot refer to their combat effectiveness. Wang Mingyang is now only close to level 1, and his physical fitness and internal energy are still in the category of primary awakeners, but because he has 2 major abilities, compared with other awakeners of the same level, his strength at this moment is much stronger. At present, the level is too low, and there is not much difference. It can only be said that Wang Mingyang's potential is immeasurable. Even Suyu, who awaken dual attribute abilities, can't be compared with him. Suyu looked at Wang Mingyang in the co-pilot, with a pale face and big drops of sweat. He felt distressed and reached out to wipe the sweat, but was afraid of disturbing Wang Mingyang, so he quickly retracted. 10 minutes later, Wang Mingyang opened his eyes, a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes, and the energy in his body had recovered a lot. This recovery speed is somewhat extraordinary. Although it is still a beginner and has not even reached the first level, the recovery speed is indeed much faster than in the previous life. Shaking his head, Wang Mingyang no longer thought about it. No matter what, this is a good thing after all. There are many abandoned vehicles along the way, and many zombies have gathered on the elevated road, but these have not caused much impact on the explosion-proof vehicle. Wang Mingyang sensed the giant blade on the front of the car. After continuous collisions, it is already somewhat unusable. Waving his hand to reshape the giant blade, Wang Mingyang estimated the distance. At this time, it has almost left the city center. In more than 20 minutes, it should be able to reach the vicinity of the university town in Xiqing district. Although there are abandoned vehicles and zombies everywhere, under the control of Wang Mingyang, who has recovered most of it, the explosion-proof vehicle drove into Xiqing district unimpeded. Next, it will pass through several communities and finally reach the urban village near the university town. It is called a university town, but 10 years ago, several well-known university campuses were built nearby, gathering more than 100,000 students, causing the original suburban wasteland to develop into a crowded market town. It is May now, there must be a lot of students nearby, plus it is the weekend. The street outside your house is probably full of zombies. Wang Mingyang analyzed the situation. There is a side door of a university near Su Yu's house. Walking 300 meters along the street from the side door is the main road. And both sides of this main road are all kinds of shops and roadside stalls, which must be crowded on weekends. What should we do? Just break in like this? Ningxue couldn't help but speak. She gritted her teeth all the way, resisting the nausea and fear in her heart, knocking away zombies one by one, and the broken bodies and blood splashing everywhere constantly irritated her nerves. I don't think it will work. There are too many zombies and it is easy to be blocked. Wang Mingyang shook his head. We can go around the road next to the orthopedic medical college. There is a newly built road over there. It is not open to traffic yet, so there must be few people. Suyu bit her lip and thought for a while before speaking. She knew very well that Wang Mingyang was not really willing to come back, not to mention Ningxue who had nothing to do with her, but now Wang Mingyang really brought them back. Although she was anxious, Suyu still kept her rationality. Perhaps, in fact, she didn't have much hope in her heart. Okay, be prepared. Go to the end of this road, turn left and walk 1 kilometer, and you will see the new road. Wang Mingyang nodded, recalling long-standing memories and remembering the location of the road. Ningxue nodded silently. Ever since she was rescued by Wang Mingyang, she knew that she should be on the pirate ship, but there was no news from her father's security base, so she could only follow Wang Mingyang. Anyway, this man is extremely powerful. This journey seemed to be seeking death, but in retrospect, it was actually quite easy. At least there was no problem with safety. Ningxue stepped on the accelerator, and she had a little bit of expectation for the next battle, just like what this man told her. Maybe if you fight more, you will naturally awaken your superpowers. What Ningxue wants to do most is to punch Wang Mingyang's sunny but ruffian face after awakening his superpower. Although Wang Mingyang did save her, however, Ningxue also made corresponding promises. Moreover, she had a feeling Wang Mingyang made this promise to her. Didn't take it as a joke. On the contrary, he is very serious. Chapter 35, Ball of Ball. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Not to mention the complex thoughts under Ningxue's expressionless face, Wang Mingyang sat up straight and took out the ink shadow in his hand. Suyu looked at the familiar environment in front of him, knowing that he would soon reach his destination. Some sweat seemed to seep out of his palms. He tightened the horizontal sword in his hand and calmed down his excitement and anxiety. Turn right ahead. Soon, a section of the road that had not been completed was exposed in front of him. Wang Mingyang signaled, and the driver Ningxue immediately controlled the explosion-proof car and rushed straight over. knocking open a row of plastic fences at the intersection. Looking straight in the direction from which they came, there was a slope on the other side of the intersection. After rushing through these roadblocks, the three people looked to the street on the left. I saw that below the slope, the straight main road was densely covered with zombies, each of them covered with dirty blood. From a distance, you can see countless fragmented corpses lying on the street. The whole street seemed to have become a purgatory on earth. This. Ningxue was a little shocked. This is all obvious. When the zombies break out, the more concentrated the places are, the more miserable it is. In this environment, there are very few survivors. Wang Mingyang seemed a little calm. In the 5 years of the apocalypse, he had seen a lot of scenes of zombies everywhere. He had also encountered a large-scale zombie tide of 100,000 levels that was more terrifying than this. Compared with the tragic scene on this street, it was simply a bit of a child's play. Drive 500 meters ahead, we can follow the fields here and walk to my home. Su Yu's voice was a little trembling, and it seemed a little inappropriate to say that he was afraid of his hometown. Okay, you guys stay with me for a while, don't exceed 5 meters, otherwise you can't blame me if you die. Wang Mingyang grabbed a handful of small metal balls from his pocket and threw them in the air casually, grab again, throw again, until all the metal balls in his pocket floated above his head. He tightened his backpack and was ready to get off at any time. There were indeed not many zombies on this new road, but there were still 20 to 30 zombies wandering along the way. Ningxue controlled the giant blade on the front of the car with ease, and easily cut the zombies on the way forward, and the wipers kept spraying water and scraping. 500 meters soon arrived. Ningxue controlled the explosion-proof car to stop on the side of the road, and Wang Mingyang jumped out of the car first. The small balls around him quickly turned into steel needles and shot out, piercing the heads of several nearby zombies into cacti. The two women quickly got out of the car to meet him. The scattered zombies in the distance heard the movement and ran towards this side. Go this way. Wang Mingyang waved his hand in the direction perpendicular to the road on the left-hand side, jumped off the shoulder and ran towards the field. Su Yu and Ningxue did not dare to neglect it. The two women held knives and ran fast in their sneakers. Fortunately, they both like to exercise and fitness, and their physical fitness is very good. Su Yu has also undergone a supernatural power enhancement. Although the road in the field was rugged at this time, the two of them still followed Wang Mingyang closely. There were still many zombies wandering in the fields. The running of the three attracted these zombies, and they stumbled towards them. Wang Mingyang controlled the steel needle within a range of 10 meters, but it seemed that after a day of fighting, his ability to control metal had been greatly enhanced. At this moment, he felt that the maximum range of the steel needle that could be perfectly controlled had reached 15 meters, and the strongest control range of metal control had increased to 7 or 8 meters. Within this 7 or 8 meter range, he could control metal objects to liquefy, deform and reorganize quickly, and within the 15-meter range, he could control the steel needle to fly, turn, and accelerate, but the speed of liquefaction and deformation was much slower, and more inertia was used to kill. The three ran along the field path for nearly 1 kilometer, killing nearly 100 zombies along the way, and finally arrived near rows of houses. Go this way, past these 2 rows of houses, and you can see my small building. Su Yu excitedly pointed to a path on the left, panting and speaking in a hurry. Go. Don't stop, there will be more zombies ahead. Wang Mingyang waved his hand lightly, and the steel needle pierced the head of a zombie and flew back quickly. Wang Mingyang ran in the direction indicated by Su Yu. Although he also lived here, he was not very familiar with these environments. He needed to work and study, so he didn't have time to wander around. While the three of them were killing zombies along the way, many windows of nearby houses were quietly opened. The behavior of the three caused many zombies to roar continuously, which was obviously different from the sporadic roars of zombies before. Wei Shui, come and see, there are 3 people killing zombies. A girl with a pretty face pulled open a corner of the curtain, carefully put her eyes close, and while seeing the situation outside clearly, she whispered to the young man in the house. Really? Rongrong, aren't a few fools trying to escape? The young man timidly stepped forward, lying on top of the girl and looking out through the gap in the curtain. It's not the direction. They ran a little fast, especially the man. He fell to the ground inexplicably before the zombies got close. Fuck. It's true. That man seems to have special abilities, that the house where the two were was a little far away. After being calcined by Su Yu's dark flame, Wang Mingyang's steel needle looked even smaller. It was too far away to see clearly. Fuck. Fuck. The knife in that woman's hand actually emits fire. This is not scientific at all, that the young man called Wei Shui couldn't help but exclaimed in a low voice. He suddenly saw a dark red flame rising from a girl's knife, directly splitting a zombie in two from the head. At this time, there were quite a lot of zombies gathered, and Su Yu couldn't help but use the dark flame ability to chop two zombies in succession. Although the horizontal sword was already very sharp, with the blessing of the dark flame ability, Su Yu could cut the zombie's head more easily. This magical scene caused a burst of exclamations in the nearby houses. Many survivors were surprised to find that humans could actually have magical powers. Many people's dim eyes lit up with a touch of spirit. From yesterday to now, it seems that everyone is facing despair, but Su Yu's sudden two knives and the magical flame seemed to ignite a seed in people's hearts. So amazing. They can kill zombies so easily. If only I had this ability. Rongrong looked at Su Yu's heroic appearance and couldn't help muttering. I'm more curious, how did that man do it? So many zombies can't get close to him at all. Wei Shui's eyes were shining, and he looked at Wang Mingyang's back with envy. Thoughts like these gradually spread in the nearby houses. The survivors looked at Wang Mingyang and the other two greedily, with envy and jealousy. Various emotions were churning in the hearts of the survivors. The survivors who were closer and saw the steel needles around Wang Mingyang were even more excited. Originally, all the survivors dared not breathe and watched the three people fight silently, but a beautiful girl with a delicate body suddenly shouted from the top floor of a 5-story building. Handsome guy. Look here. Look here. Come and save me. I can make you he. This shout broke the silence, and many survivors couldn't help shouting, Fat uncle, little brother. I have money. Come and save me. I will give you all my money. There are hundreds of thousands. Bucket ant, little brother. Save me first. I will introduce my daughter to you. Charming lady, little brother. Come and save me. I will give you a free massage. Lolita girl, oh. I am so scared. Big brother, come and save me, my ball is very big. From now on, I will only give you the ball to play with. Su Yu. Hashtag, Mu Ningxue. Hashtag N, Wang Mingyang was full of black lines. What kind of people are these? He had never encountered such a scene in his previous life, and he was speechless. Chapter 36, Life and Death 100 meters. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Various shouts gathered together, and the originally silent streets, except for the occasional roar of zombies, suddenly became noisy. The nearby zombies roared one after another, and the sound was transmitted layer by layer. Soon, the zombies wandering within a kilometer radius were alerted by the movement here, and they all rushed towards Wang Mingyang and the others. Wang Mingyang was shocked. This scene was a bit scary. He never expected that the various slanderous words of these survivors would actually arouse the surrounding zombies. At this moment, densely packed zombies could be seen hundreds of meters away. Run quickly. The corpses are surrounding us. Wang Mingyang shouted, and with a wave of his hand, he tore down two doors from nearby residences. Su Yu and Mu Ningxue were also pale and anxious at this moment. In the previous battle with Wang Mingyang, there were never so many zombies surrounding them from all directions. The tsunami-like tide of zombies made the two women's scalps numb. Wang Mingyang controlled the two doors and protected the left and right sides of the three people. At this moment, he just rushed forward and had no time to care about the left, right and behind. He had many ways to escape safely, but Su Yu and Mu Ningxue would definitely not survive in this situation. Both women were his potential stocks. An A-level power and an S-level power can become his powerful arms in the future. At this moment, we were still nearly 100 meters away from Su Yu's small building, but within a short period of time, a large number of zombies had gathered during this journey. Su Yu, prepare to use your Crescent Sky Chong. What? Su Yu looked confused. What is this? Ah. I'm talking about your dark flame sword move, slashing forward twice. Pay attention to the interval of 5 seconds. Wang Mingyang clapped his lips and explained quickly. Oh. I understand, I'll chop you if you say so. Su Yu swung his knife to chop off a zombie that jumped to the left, and nodded in response. Wang Mingyang controlled the steel needle and fired continuously. When the zombies gathered in front of him, he immediately shouted. Cut it! But when Su Yu heard this, he immediately held the knife in both hands and raised it above his head. A dark flame quickly spread along the blade. The next moment, Su Yu gave a sweet shout, slashed diagonally forward with the horizontal knife in his hand, and a dark red arc-shaped knife light shot out. This sword flashed across the group of corpses in front of him like lightning, and dark flames burned wherever it passed, and the zombies' bodies slowly split into 2 halves. The sword light went straight through the group of corpses, and finally exploded among the corpses more than 10 meters away. Immediately, flesh and blood spattered, dark red flames were scattered everywhere, and a stench of burning flesh and blood spread. Hiss. Fuck. That's awesome. Oh my god, this woman is so fierce. I want to marry her. You want to eat shit? Others are so strong and can kill so many zombies with one knife, but you are still trembling in the room. That's right. I want to be her male favorite. I have 180 units. Stop shouting, the zombies nearby are coming. If you keep shouting, not only will they die, but we will also be surrounded. Shut up, shut up. If the great gods can survive, maybe we will have a chance to be rescued. Su Yu's extremely domineering sword shocked the nearby survivors in countless wonders. Even she herself did not expect that. She just tried it in her mind, and the sword light actually exploded. The use of superpowers is not a fixed skill in the game, and can only be displayed using fixed templates. Run now, rush. Wang Mingyang also didn't expect that Su Yu would actually change his moves before the battle, and use the sword light to a better effect, directly cleaving a gap of more than 10 meters in front of him. He couldn't help but feel overjoyed, and took the lead to rush forward. Su Yu and Ningxue followed closely behind, not daring to leave a few meters away from Wang Mingyang. The 2 door panels blocked the attacks of many zombies. Wang Mingyang's steel needles were already at full strength, but the zombies gathered around him were really too many. One more knife. Wang Mingyang led the 2 women forward 10 meters. The corpses quickly gathered around him and immediately ordered Su Yu to repeat his old tricks. Another ray of sword light shot out, clearing away the zombies more than 10 meters away in a straight line in front of him. However, the energy in Su Yu's body had been almost exhausted. It was estimated that he could still use another sword after squeezing it, but after this blow, Su Yu was definitely unable to fight or run. With the corpses surrounding him, he would definitely die. All this was within Wang Mingyang's calculations, and there was no way he would let Su Yu die here. After rushing forward for more than 10 meters again, Wang Mingyang paused. His right index finger suddenly drew in front of him, and a half-meter-long black line suddenly appeared in front of his eyes. The next second after the black line appeared out of thin air, it was drawn forward. The half-meter-long black line quickly lengthened. After crossing a distance of 4 to 5 meters, it directly extended to 2 meters in length. Wherever this black line passed, zombie heads were cut open one after another, and half of the heads slowly slid down with inertia. The sound of thumping was endless, and 20 meters ahead, zombies fell to the ground one after another, and red and white things were scattered all over the ground. Su Yu and Ningxue looked at the bloody scene and couldn't help but cover their mouths and retching. This space cutting consumed a lot of Wang Mingyang's energy, but the effect was immediate. Let's go. Seeing that the 2 women looked a little weak, Wang Mingyang frowned, quickly reached out to hold their wrists, and ran forward with all his strength. When he ran to the corner dozens of meters away, Wang Mingyang saw the situation here. Next to the zombie-strewn path, Su Yu's small building stood out, but the rolling door of the convenience store was closed. This made Wang Mingyang feel a little relieved. This at least meant that Aunt Lu had a chance to listen to him and close the store in advance. Wang Mingyang released 3 space cuts in a row, cut a bloody path, and ran hard, trying to get into the small building as soon as possible, but his right hand suddenly fell, and the slippery and soft jade hand in his hand broke free, and Mu Ningxue's painful groan came to his ears. His heart was pounding, and Wang Mingyang stopped quickly, but the inertia of his body caused him to rush forward a few meters. Looking back, his scalp suddenly went numb. I saw Mu Ningxue lying on the ground in pain, but her ankle was tightly grasped by a zombie with a small piece of scalp missing. Many zombies had already surrounded her, and the nearest zombie was less than 3 meters away from Mu Ningxue. Wang Mingyang swung his right hand violently, and the steel needles circling around him and the iron door suspended on the right side shot over one after another, but those zombies had already pounced on Mu Ningxue. Mu Ningxue looked up, but saw many zombies flying over her, with bloody claws and huge mouths drooling and bloody, so hideous and terrifying. She felt extremely fearful, and uneasy, and even more unwilling. An extremely angry emotion exploded in her heart. She lowered her head, closed her eyes, and screamed. Ah! Get out of here! At this moment, Mu Ningxue released all the anger and fear in her heart. Chapter 37 Blue Ice Flower. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Zombies flying in the air, steel needles shooting at high speed, and iron gates floating in the sky. As Mu Ningxue screamed, time seemed to have stopped at this moment. The next second, an extreme chill erupted from Mu Ningxue's body, and faint blue frost suddenly bloomed with Mu Ningxue as the center. All objects within a radius of 10 meters were frozen by the frost, including Wang Mingyang and Su Yu, who looked anxious. Wang Mingyang's gesture of waving his right hand to control the metal was instantly frozen in the frost. With a flash of horror in his eyes, the horizontal knife raised by Su Yu's left hand, and even the dark flame that had spread to the blade, were frozen at this moment, and Su Yu's anxious expression was frozen at this moment. Looking down from a high altitude, it looks like a crystal clear blue ice flower blooming among the zombies, which looks beautiful under the sunlight. Mu Ningxue's soft black hair took on a faint blue color at this moment, and there were specks of frost attached to the ends of her hair. A few seconds later, Mu Ningxue, who was sitting on the ground, rolled her eyes and collapsed. The frozen objects around him, except Wang Mingyang and Su Yu, all turned into ice powder and exploded. Su Yu, mobilize your powers to cover your whole body. That with energy surging in his body, Wang Mingyang quickly broke free of the frost on his body and immediately spoke to give Su Yu some advice. He quickly ran forward and picked up Mu Ningxue, who was unconscious and lying limply on the ground. Su Yu understood the words and quickly mobilized the powers in his body. Dark red flames emerged under the blue frost, melting the frost in just 1 second, and his body immediately regained control. Because of Mu Ningxue's wave of explosions, the zombies surrounding him within 10 meters were instantly cleared. Wang Mingyang hugged the unconscious Mu Ningxue and quickly rushed to the door of the corridor. Before he had time to take out the access key, Wang Mingyang used metal to control his powers and quickly twisted the door lock open. Then he kicked the door open and rushed in with Mu Ningxue in his arms. Countless zombies roared and chased after him. Su Yu, who followed closely behind, quickly turned around and closed the door. Wang Mingyang didn't wait to put down Mu Ningxue, and quickly activated his metal control ability to melt and weld the door lock. Then, the 2 iron doors left outside were melted and directly attached to the door of Su Yu's house, which increased the door's protective power. After doing all this, Wang Mingyang sat down on the stairs and gently put down Mu Ningxue in his arms, ignoring the group of corpses screaming and scratching outside the door. Su Yu put down the horizontal knife in his hand and knelt down on one knee to check on Mu Ningxue's condition. After a while, Su Yu's frown relaxed. Brother Mingyang, she is fine. She seems to be a little weak. Her physical weakness has caused her to be temporarily comatose. She can just rest and be fine. Well, I guess so. She awakened her superpower under strong stimulation. Wang Mingyang nodded. In Mu Ningxue's previous life, she had awakened the superpower today, but her fate had changed in this life. Zhao Ding did not succeed, but died in Wang Mingyang's hands. Wang Mingyang originally thought that with his intervention, Mu Ningxue might delay the awakening of her powers. Unexpectedly, she still awakened her ice powers today. the former goddess of ice and snow may have embarked on the path that originally belonged to her. Suyu, use your knife to split this wall and see if Aunt Lu is in the store. On one side of the stairwell is a wall of the convenience store. There is no other doorway to reach the convenience store at this moment, however. Fortunately, Wang Mingyang's reshaped horizontal knife was sharp enough, so it shouldn't be a problem to cut through this wall, which is not very thick. After going through all kinds of hardships, Suyu finally returned home. He could no longer hold himself in any longer. However, the outside was blocked by a group of corpses and he would not be able to get out for a while. Suyu, who was secretly anxious, his eyes lit up when he heard this. He quickly clenched the horizontal knife in his hands with both hands, shouted softly, and struck the wall diagonally with the knife. The sharp blade cut hard into the wall. Suyu pulled it out with all his strength. The shiny blade was pulled out from the wall. A gap appeared on the wall, and some objects on the opposite side could be faintly seen. Suyu quickly adjusted his posture, struck the wall several times with his sword, and finally kicked him over. Suddenly bricks flew everywhere, and a large piece of wall was kicked down. Suyu couldn't wait to crawl through it. Ah! Brother Mingyang, come quickly! That the next moment Suyu screamed. Wang Mingyang secretly thought something bad and quickly leaned Ningxue against the wall. Wang Mingyang got up and ducked through the hole in the wall and walked into the convenience store. After walking past the collapsed shelves and around the corner, Wang Mingyang saw Suyu standing in front of the cashier with a worried look on his face, tears already filling his eyes. Aunt Lu. Brother Mingyang, I haven't seen my mother. Then what's your name? Woo-hoo, look at the corner, there is a body, but it's not Mom. Suyu cried. In the small store, 3 or 4 shelves collapsed, and a male corpse lay on the ground with a bloody hole on his head. This made Suyu feel anxious and frightened. Wang Mingyang walked near the cashier, looked at the rolling shutter door, frowned and observed the male corpse for a while, and then glanced around the convenience store. The power seemed to have been cut off at this moment, and all the electrical appliances in the store were shut down. Although it was already bright, the convenience store still seemed a little dark. After going around in a circle, Wang Mingyang suddenly found that there seemed to be a hole in the wall. His heart moved slightly. Wang Mingyang raised his fingers lightly and controlled the metal. The ability is activated. A yellow metal particle slowly retreated from the hole. When a metal particle floated in front of him, Wang Mingyang realized that it was a bullet, raised his eyebrows slightly. Combined with the situation in the store, Wang Mingyang seemed to have some guesses in his mind. Suyu, let's go back first and take a look upstairs. Okay. Suyu was sad, but his mother was not here, and it would be useless to stay, so he followed Wang Mingyang through the hole in the wall. The two of them helped the unconscious Ningxue up and climbed upstairs. The 5-story building, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors are all rented, basically by college students who have graduated or not graduated nearby, and there are about 6 rooms on each floor. It was noon when the end of the world came, and it was the weekend, so there were no people left in the small building. When Wang Mingyang and his friends climbed to the 4th floor, they heard a knock on the door from room 404. Looking at Suyu, Wang Mingyang vaguely remembered that this room seemed to be rented by a young couple who had not graduated. Young people are full of energy. They often stay up late at night to explore mountains and valleys, bushes and streams, making the crowing of chickens and barking of dogs disturb people's sleep. They are typical troublemakers. On the night of Wang Mingyang's rebirth, he was concentrating on reading. Occasionally, he heard some faint sounds, but he didn't care about them at that time. Reading is important. Ignoring this pair of troublemakers for the time being, Wang Mingyang and Suyu helped Ningxue climb to the 5th floor quickly. Suyu took out the key from his backpack to open the security door. The moment he stepped into the room, Suyu couldn't help shouting Mom a few times, but the empty room did not give her any response. With a sigh, Wang Mingyang put Ningxue on the sofa and closed the door with a wave of his hand. Chapter 38 S-Level Ice Power. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Suyu searched the whole house and even went to the rooftop to look for her, but she still couldn't find Aunt Lu, and there was not even a note left. Finally, she had to return to the house sadly and sat silently beside Wang Mingyang. Suyu, Aunt Lu may be fine, you don't have to worry too much. But where would she go? It's so dangerous outside, and there's a body in the store. The body in the store should have been shot. I found a bullet. Wang Mingyang stretched out his right hand, and a brass bullet floated in his palm. It was the one he got out of the wall. Ah! What's going on? Su Yu was surprised. It wasn't too strange to have a body, but there was a bullet, which was worth investigating. I guess Aunt Lu was probably rescued by someone. Really? Who will come to save Mom? Su Yu's eyes lit up, and he grabbed Wang Mingyang's arm and said in surprise. This is just my guess, but I think it's very likely. Wang Mingyang patted Su Yu's little hand and continued, the shutter door was not locked. It should have been pulled down from the outside and there was no time to lock it. The body was not a zombie. It was probably put in by Aunt Lu herself. But she was shot to death, which means that either Aunt Lu had a gun or someone else came to rescue Aunt Lu. Mom couldn't have a gun, unless it was Dad's former colleague. Su Yu regained some calmness and tilted his head to recall, Dad has been dead for more than 10 years. During this period, Uncle Zhang and Uncle Li from the police station often came to see us. It is very likely that your dad's former colleague came, otherwise ordinary people can't have a gun. I just don't know, is it Uncle Zhang or Uncle Li who came today? Where did they take Mom? Su Yu raised her tearful face and choked. No matter where she went, it's a good thing. At least it means that Aunt Lu is safe. There are police around and guns in her hands. As long as she doesn't face a large number of zombies, there should be no danger. Wang Mingyang smiled and comforted Su Yu. Su Yu nodded upon hearing this. Wang Mingyang's analysis was indeed fine in her opinion, and she also put down a lot of worries and uneasiness in her heart. However, Wang Mingyang's eyes were not so optimistic. What he didn't tell Su Yu was that after the end of the world, social order quickly collapsed and human morality was lost, if the policeman, who was not sure whether it was Uncle Zhang or Uncle Li, still maintained his responsibility or nature as a policeman and rescued the wounded everywhere, it might not be a good thing. To survive in the end of the world, the principle is to preserve oneself. This is the consensus of all survivors in the end of the world. However, this principle was not realized by everyone when the end of the world just came. In the end of the world, Aunt Lu followed a policeman, which can only be said to have advantages and disadvantages. Everything is up to God. After comforting Su Yu, Wang Mingyang turned his head to look at Ningxue on the sofa. There seemed to be a hint of ice blue luster on her charming and plump body. Sure enough, talented people always shine. Fortunately, it was blue light. Ningxue's eyes were tightly closed, but she was still frowning. The short burst seemed to release all her energy in an instant. Her mental power and energy were instantly emptied, and she fell into a deep sleep. How long will it take for her to wake up? Wang Mingyang turned to look at Su Yu. Not sure, if it's faster, she should be able to wake up in a while. Her body is too exhausted and her stress response is a bit strong. Su Yu thought for a while and said uncertainly. It's probably about the same. The awakening of superpowers will consume a lot of physical strength. She ran violently just now, and her physical strength has been consumed by more than half. In addition, the situation just now was critical. She should have been scared and her emotions fluctuated violently, which led to the awakening of superpowers. She didn't control the output well, and consumed all the energy at once, so she fainted. Wang Mingyang nodded and briefly analyzed the situation. Brother Mingyang, what level of superpowers will Ningxue awaken? Su Yu asked nervously. Her own should be A level. According to Wang Mingyang, awakening this level is already a very powerful talent. However, just now, when Ningxue's ability exploded, Su Yu asked herself that her own ability could not do it. She felt that Ningxue's ice and snow ability might be higher than her level. This means that her advantage will be replaced by Wang Mingyang's side. What she awakened is S-level ice ability. Sure enough, Wang Mingyang answered Su Yu's question in an affirmative tone, which made Su Yu feel inexplicably unwilling. S-level. This is more advanced than your ability, Brother Mingyang. There was a slight sourness in Su Yu's tone, but she didn't notice why Wang Mingyang knew this. That's not necessarily true. You must have seen the other ability I used just now. Wang Mingyang looked at Suyu with a smile. Suyu smiled flatteringly, looking embarrassed. She was indeed very curious. The black line released by Wang Mingyang just now made her feel frightened. The result is obvious. The black line cut through the zombies like a sharp blade, completely unstoppable. However, the situation was critical at the time, and there was no time to ask. Now that she calmed down and thought about it, Suyu also discovered this strange place, but after just one day of getting along, plus the 2 years of observation before, Suyu knew very well that Wang Mingyang was not such an easy person to talk to. She paid great attention to her role positioning. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. What Wang Mingyang asked me to do, I must do it well. However, at this moment, since Wang Mingyang brought it up himself, Suyu no longer pretended to be stupid. She was indeed very curious. I am indeed very curious, but Brother Mingyang, if you are willing to tell me, you will definitely tell me. If you are not willing to tell me, I can't ask you. What a silly girl. Wang Mingyang patted her head gently, stretched his waist, and leaned back on the sofa. Everyone has the possibility of awakening superpowers. For 99% of people, awakening superpowers is already a blessing. But there are always exceptions in the world. Very few people will awaken multiple attributes like you, or awaken multiple superpowers. Just like you, Brother Mingyang. Wang Mingyang paused. In fact, he didn't know whether the superpower he had could still be called awakening. Even the system prompt was called Absorb Superpowers. With a calm smile, Wang Mingyang continued, the ability I often use now is the A-level, Metal Control, which you have seen many times. But, what I use just now is the S-level ability, Space Cutting, which is a killer and a trump card that I don't want to expose. Chapter 39 Suyu's Ambition. You are listening at novelfull.audio. S-level, so powerful. Suyu covered her mouth, her eyes widened in surprise, but if I use it like this today, many people will see it. What should I do? It doesn't matter, this ability is relatively secretive. If you don't watch it closely, it's hard to see the black line clearly. As long as you two don't tell others, others can't be sure that I have multiple abilities. I will never tell anyone, I swear. Suyu raised her fair little hand and said seriously. I believe you. Wang Mingyang pressed Suyu's little hand and smiled slightly. In fact, there are different levels of awakening abilities, but the higher the level, the more it depends on the awakener's own development of abilities. Maybe one day you will see that a C-level or B-level awakener can easily crush an S-level awakener. Ah! Is there such a situation? It's difficult, but it doesn't mean it won't happen. At this point, a memory emerged in Wang Mingyang's mind, distant and clear. Brother Mingyang, why do you know so much? Suyu hugged Wang Mingyang's arm, and the straight peaks were squeezed and deformed. Wang Mingyang touched his nose and glanced at his arm. While feeling happy, he kept a calm tone and continued, don't you usually read fantasy novels? There are a lot of them in these knowledge novels. Ah. Brother Mingyang, are you serious? You can believe those fabricated things. Suyu was a little stunned for a moment, then slapped Wang Mingyang's arm and said coquettishly. The end of the world has come, what else is unbelievable? In fact, so far, my judgment of supernatural powers is based on those novels. Wang Mingyang said nonsense seriously, and couldn't help scratching the tip of his nose with his fingers. Okay. Then. Brother Mingyang, do you think my dark flame ability can beat Mu Ningxue's S-level ice ability? Your dual attribute dark flame ability seems to be A-level now, but you have also realized that the use of abilities is not the same. Your sword light explosion is indeed very powerful and creative. Keep this mentality, work hard to exercise your control, and find a better way to use it. Maybe one day, your dark flame ability can completely defeat Mu Ningxue's S-level ice ability. Wang Mingyang looked at Suyu with an encouraging look, but this girl's talent is indeed very high. In his previous life, he had never heard of this dark flame ability, but he had seen some other dual attribute ability users, but like Suyu, there are really few people who can actively change their abilities in the early stage of awakening. Well, I will work hard. Suyu clenched his fist and made a cheering gesture. With a face full of fighting spirit, Wang Mingyang smiled slightly, turned his head to look at Ningxue, and thought about the next direction of action. Suyu's mother, Aunt Lu, seems to have been rescued by an acquaintance and is temporarily safe, so there is no need to spend energy to find her. He is no longer willing to waste this precious time in the early days of the apocalypse. This time, he came back to the vicinity of the university town. In addition to wanting to completely subdue Suyu, he also had other ideas. Ningxue's ice ability has awakened. Next, it is necessary to strengthen the ability of Suyu and Ningxue and upgrade them to the primary peak within 6 days as soon as possible. After 6 days, the crystal nuclei in the bodies of zombies and mutants will condense, and the crystal nuclei can be collected as soon as possible to improve their strength. As for his own ability, after this period of continuous fighting, the metal control ability has been improved a lot, and the metal control is only a few pieces away from the first level upgrade. He will definitely be able to accumulate enough for the upgrade within 6 days. During these 6 days, he can also selectively read a few books, and maybe he can synthesize the 2 major abilities of mustard seed space and time stillness. Facing the siege of the zombies today, the group damage of the metal control ability seems a bit insufficient, although he could increase the amount of steel needles he controlled to increase the lethality. The zombies' weakness was in the head, and a thinner steel needle would not kill the zombies for a while. Basically, 3 steel needles needed to be inserted at the same time, and then stirred in the brain to kill the zombies. This operation was not a big deal at ordinary times, but today, facing thousands of zombies rushing towards him, he needed to kill dozens or hundreds of zombies around him as soon as possible, and this operation seemed a bit cumbersome at this time. At the same time, the consumption of mental power also increased exponentially, which put a lot of pressure on Wang Mingyang. As a last resort, he chose to use the more terrifying space cutting. However, the bad thing about space cutting is that it can only hit a straight line at present, and the width is limited. When facing the zombies from all directions, it is more than enough to break through, but the killing range is not good. I need a group damage ability. Wang Mingyang thought silently in his mind. The group damage abilities that were more famous in the previous life were basically elemental fire, thunder, wind, and ice. There are also many psychic abilities, but they are mainly used against intelligent creatures, such as humans and high-level mutant creatures. At present, psychic abilities have limited lethality against low-level zombies. After all, low-level zombies are just a bunch of fools, and they don't have any thoughts at all. Among the group damage elemental abilities, various natural disaster abilities are more outstanding. There was once a high-level psychic who awakened the dual attributes of fire and earth and created the legendary meteorite drop move. For some unknown reason, this high-level psychic released this move over a county town. At that time, Wang Mingyang and other teammates were just outside the county town. Standing on the top of the mountain and looking from afar, a sky full of giant meteorites mixed with flames fell from the sky and hit the ground directly. The entire county town was covered by meteorites and was directly destroyed by this move. Countless human survivors, zombies, and mutant creatures were killed and injured. Wang Mingyang knew very well that to extract this kind of ability from books, at least it would take a long time to study in 2 types of books related to fire and earth and stone. There is already Ningxue in the ice department, and this woman should not leave in a short time. There is Suyu in the fire department, but her ability currently tends to kill single linearly, and the energy loss is small and large, which belongs to the level of 3 axes. In this way, the 3 types that are more suitable for Wang Mingyang at present are fire, thunder, and wind. Fortunately, he has scanned the entire provincial library and has no shortage of books of all kinds. Looking out from the window on the 5th floor, a large number of zombies gathered near the houses. They were so dense that you couldn't see the end at a glance. It was roughly estimated that there were tens of thousands of them. There was no need to go out for the time being. Suyu's small building only had the middle corridor leading to the upper floor. The door had been welded shut by Wang Mingyang with his supernatural power, and it was basically impossible for low-level zombies to break through. There were also many supplies in the convenience store on the 1st floor. so there was basically no worry about food and drink. It was already past 10 in the morning. He fought until late last night but had not rested. He got up early this morning and used his supernatural power several times with all his strength. Even though Wang Mingyang was now far beyond the strength of ordinary primary supernatural users, he felt a little overwhelmed. Suyu slept for several hours last night, and he was in good spirits at this time. Wang Mingyang asked Suyu to take care of Mu Ningxue. At Suyu's suggestion, he found a guest room and went to the bathroom to wash the blood stains on his body. After a while, Wang Mingyang came out in his shorts, holding a towel and rubbing his hair, but saw Suyu pushing the door in with a set of men's clothes in his hand. Looking at Wang Mingyang's naked body, Suyu's face flushed. She lowered her head and stuffed the clothes into Wang Mingyang's hands, then turned around and ran back to the living room. Wang Mingyang looked at the t-shirt and sweatpants in his hands with a wry smile. He didn't expect Suyu to be so thoughtful and even find clothes for him. Looking at the slightly bulging pants, he couldn't help but spit. After closing the door and putting the clothes on the bedside, Wang Mingyang stuffed himself into the soft quilt, moaned with satisfaction, and finally couldn't stand the exhaustion that came like a tide, and fell asleep. Chapter 40 International Gestures. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At dusk, Wang Mingyang finally woke up under the rays of the setting sun, stretched out contentedly, and felt a strong sense of hunger in his stomach. After several hours of sleep, Wang Mingyang recovered all his lost mental energy, and he felt 100 times more energetic. After getting dressed and washing up in the bathroom, Wang Mingyang opened the door and walked into the living room. Suyu and Mu Ningxue were sitting on the sofa, facing each other. There was a lot of food on the coffee table in the middle, and the trash can was already filled with packaging bags. Obviously, after Mu Ningxue woke up, the sequelae of awakening her powers also appeared. Fortunately, Suyu had gone through this process and found a lot of food to replenish Mu Ningxue's strength. I'm starving to death. Suyu, do you have hot water? Let me bring you 2 buckets of instant noodles. Wang Mingyang wore a pair of big slippers, walked over lazily, and sat down on the sofa. Yes, the gas tank at home can still be used. Let me boil some water for you. Brother Mingyang, please wait a moment. When Suyu heard this, he immediately stood up and ran towards the kitchen while replying. Well, thanks. Wang Mingyang gave Suyu a big smile and turned to look at Mu Ningxue. Mu Ningxue, who had awakened the ice and snow power, seemed to be affected by the power. Her charming face looked a little cold, and an incongruous feeling of holiness mixed with charm emerged spontaneously, but it didn't diminish her beauty at all. Instead, she had a strange charm that made people want to blaspheme her. Wang Mingyang, who had experienced the apocalypse for 5 years and was stabbed in the back by the goddess he had been licking for several years, was actually wary of women after his rebirth, but seeing such alluring Mu Ningxue, she couldn't help but feel a little strange in her heart. It can be said that Wang Mingyang knows Suyu fairly well and has not had much contact with him, but judging from Aunt Lu's usual behavior, Suyu's nature is not bad, and he can feel that this girl has a certain affection for him. In addition, Suyu's A-level talent is worth the effort to conquer and cultivate. For Mu Ningxue, Wang Mingyang's original intention was just to take a fancy to Mu Ningxue's powerful talent of S-level ice and snow abilities. In the last 5 years before rebirth, there were actually very few known S-level powers, and the more famous ones were only a few of the twin emperors, 5 emperors, and 9 heavenly kings. The rest of the S-level superpowers either died on the way, or kept their ability. Level secret. There are only a few S-level superpowers at the 9th level, and one of the more famous ones is Mu Ningxue, who is known as the Ice and Snow Goddess. Due to all the rumors before his rebirth, Wang Mingyang had a fairly good understanding of Mu Ningxue's character and qualities. To put it simply, if it weren't for the Purple Thunder King's seemingly sincere but actually fake solicitation, Mu Ningxue would never have been accepted into the Sword King's employ. Being able to save Mu Ningxue before she suffered, in itself, made Mu Ningxue trust Wang Mingyang. In despair, Mu Ningxue even shouted, "Kill him. I'm yours." Such a promise, however, Wang Mingyang did not intend to repay the favor, as he was not interested in Mu Ningxue's body, although it is indeed very tempting. Old Wang is also a little greedy. Whether it was beheading Zhao Ding, killing Jerry and Tom, or leading the two women out of the siege of corpses, they all showed Wang Mingyang's powerful strength to Mu Ningxue without exception. This left a deep imprint in Mu Ningxue's heart before she awakened. In the end of the world, you can follow such a powerful man, and this man will not be harmful to you. For Mu Ningxue, who is as beautiful as a demon, there is no safer choice than this. How do you feel after awakening your superpower? Wang Mingyang raised the corners of his mouth slightly and looked at Mu Ningxue with a playful expression. He has not forgotten that he promised this woman that as long as she can defeat him, he can cancel that promise. It feels good. There is a surge of energy in my body. I learned from Suyu how to control and release supernatural powers. Mu Ningxue raised her jade hand, a cold air surged out of her palm, and an ice flower as big as a fist slowly appeared above her palm. Well, it's pretty good. Suyu said, do you think I awakened an S-level power? Mu Ningxue released her superpower, and the ice flowers slowly dissipated, leaving a cool chill in the air. Yes, she should have told you about the level of superpowers. These are some of my guesses about superpowers based on descriptions in various novels. And the strength of your superpowers has obviously reached the S level I imagined. You should have 2 powers. Mu Ningxue stared at Wang Mingyang with her beautiful eyes, carefully observing the man's expression. Wang Mingyang looked at her calmly. The A-level ability, metal control, and the S-level ability, space cutting, are the 2 abilities I have. Mu Ningxue was surprised. Are there 2 types? Yes, both. I am a multi-power possessor. Faced with the scheduled main force of the future team, Wang Mingyang did not intend to hide it. With the Zhutian Reading System, he will only have more and more powers in the future, waiting to be discovered later. It is better to be partially honest now and gain trust. Mu Ningxue. Oh, winky face. Oh, she was just a hair away from being fucked by Gong Suinu, the bodyguard Zhao Ding. In that case, she didn't even have her powers awakened. After going through all kinds of hardships, until he was almost torn apart by zombies, he finally awakened his superpowers. The guy in front of him didn't seem to be in much danger, but he actually had 2 superpowers. It's totally unreasonable. She wanted to greet Wang Mingyang's relatives, but her good upbringing made her feel uncomfortable. After thinking about it, he could only put on a cold face and silently extended a finger. International hand gestures. Those who know will know. Ahem, I say, does Miss Mu know this trick? Wang Mingyang looked at the indecent gestures suddenly made by the cold and elegant lady and couldn't help complaining. I can't stand it anymore, there's nothing I can do. Mu Ningxue rolled her eyes, and her iceberg beauty began to collapse. Well, awakening superpowers is a good thing, at least you don't have to worry about turning into a zombie. Wang Mingyang shook his head and said calmly. Mu Ningxue was surprised. Is there such a saying? Suyu in the kitchen heard this and also poked his little face out and looked over in confusion. I have observed the bodies of the 2 foreigners. Jerry, who was very fast, had a bite mark on his arm. He should have been bitten by a zombie. He awakened his superpowers, but he did not turn into a zombie. So, the positive and negative energy I guessed before may be true. Awakening superpowers means that positive energy has the upper hand. Turning into a zombie means that negative energy has won. If a human being is bitten by a zombie before awakening superpowers, it is likely to cause negative energy to overflow and turn into a zombie. And after awakening, the positive energy in the human body overflows. Even if it is bitten by a zombie again, it is estimated that it will not mutate again. Wang Mingyang analyzed calmly. In fact, these theories have been verified before Rebirth. It's just that now, he conveyed it with an unfounded excuse. The end of the world is coming, and the zombie outbreak is not caused by the virus that everyone guessed at the beginning. No matter how powerful the virus is, it is impossible for most people to mutate and explode at the same time. Different regions and different people will always have different time sequences, but this difference did not appear before or after Rebirth. On the contrary, in this life, Wang Mingyang witnessed the strange and weird red light with his own eyes, as well as the strange whispers that came faintly. There was no rumor about these things in the previous life. This can only mean that because of Wang Mingyang's rebirth and the advent of the end of the world, there was a little difference in his eyes. Perhaps, it is not different, but no one could find it in the previous life. After rebirth, Wang Mingyang awakened 2 superpowers in advance because he had the Zhutian Reading System, which was a big variable.